It's looking like we are set to sign our fourth goalkeeper, as Filip Jorgensen has reached an agreement in principle. Today, my friends, we have a ton of stories to get through, so I can't waste any more time in the intro. You know what to do. Hit that like button, share your thoughts and opinions. Stay with me later this morning in the early hours as I cover our first preseason game against Wrexham. And very quickly right now, the new training gear items for the 24-25 season are officially out. There are links in the description, have a look for yourselves, and if you decide to buy something, don't forget to use Nini10 at checkout to get 10% off your final order. Hope you guys enjoy, and let's get straight into things. We get the quick report out of the way first, as finally, it seems like we are set to sign Boca Juniors' young wonder kid in Aaron Anselmino. Reports in Argentina suggest that the final fee is set to be $80 million plus a further $4 million in add-ons. Now, to get this deal completed, because originally we had hoped to introduce him straight into our pre-season squad this summer, but that wasn't how Boca Juniors saw things, and ultimately we have now agreed upon allowing Anselmino to remain at Boca Juniors until June 2025 with the option to actually extend that loan until the end of 2025 in December. At the moment, Anselmino has reportedly left Argentina, is currently traveling to London, and is set to complete his medical, but he has suffered a small muscular injury at the moment, so he hasn't been playing as much football. And actually, with this muscular injury, it's not the first time he's had this since he's made the step up. Don't worry, this is like the normal growing pains when you're a young player whose body's still growing, you're still developing, and of course you're playing at a much more intense and higher level. You'll get conditions with this over time, and I think things will work out. It makes sense why the club now are open now to moving on players like Trevoh Chalobah when Anselmino is part of their plans for the future. When you look at talents like him and George Achampong, both of them have the potential to be in our squad or first team players in the future. So my friends, that's the news around Anselmino. Good luck to the kid, and let's move on, because we have some breaking news courtesy of Fabrizio Romano and reports in Spain, and Romano states that we have sent our first official bid of 20 million euros for Jorgensen. And if you remember, Marseille were trying to negotiate under the 20 million euro valuation that Villarreal had placed on the goalkeeper's head. So it seems like we were waiting in the shadows, waiting to find out the conditions and figures without officially being part of the negotiations. And now that they're out, is there much that Villarreal can do in terms of rejecting us and asking for more money? So it seems like this could be a tactical transfer win on our part. But to continue on, the player naturally is keen on a move, and reports in Spain state that an agreement in principle has been made and reached for the goalkeeper. So it does seem like the pace behind this move now is picking up so fast, and at the moment it seems like he will be fighting it out for the number one spot alongside Robert Sanchez. Now, he will become our fourth goalkeeper under this new ownership, and when you combine the fees of Petrovic, Slonina, Sanchez and Jorgensen, that is around £72 million. We still have other goalkeepers we need to get rid of. Of course, this Kepa-sized headache that's been an issue for us for God knows how long. When he's on ridiculous wages like that, it's no surprise that most clubs just won't be entertaining any moves. So fingers crossed he remains at Madrid, but at the moment it seems that Lunin is more likely to remain there. Let's see what happens. But the strategy is interesting. It seems like we've been just hedging our bets across different goalkeepers that can fit maybe tactical roles without necessarily being that heavy hitter goalkeeper that can transform our defense and take our defense and team to that next level. For myself, if I was the directors, you guys know what I'm about to say, that 72 million I've spent on 4 goalkeepers, I would have spent that on one goalkeeper, and that would have been Diogo Costa. And I'm going to explain why I feel like keepers of his dimension actually benefit the team more compared to, a lot of, good quality goalkeepers who aren't necessarily leading goalkeepers in their position. Outside of Robert Sanchez's experience in the Premier League, you're looking at players who don't have much top flight experience in Europe's top 5 leagues, or you're looking at goalkeepers that have only just now announced themselves. And to make that step up if you're Jorgensen, to go from Villarreal, where last season was your breakout season. The first half of last season had its difficulties naturally. He came back stronger in the second half, but he hasn't played 100 games of football yet. He's still quite an unknown quantity. And to leave that safety net, that environment at Villarreal where you could have spent another season there growing improving as a goalkeeper to get ready for a big move. Listen, the guy clearly has, ambition for himself, but it does remind me of comments that Nicholas Jackson would say when he was faced with criticism from the fan base last season for some misses that he had. And he said that at a club like Villarreal, where the pressure, the expectations, is nowhere near the same level as it is at our football club, and Nico had to really toughen up mentally to block out the criticism, but still have that confidence to believe in himself. And I feel like when you're a striker and a goalkeeper, you can maybe relate to the pressure you feel, because outside of any other outfield position, they're like the two key defining positions, right? Because strikers must score the chances that come their way, and goalkeepers must prevent the chances that come their way. And if you're not mentally there, if you're not confident, if you're doubting yourself, you can make the biggest impacts against your team. And this is where fans don't really have that much sympathy or patience for you. So, it's going to be a big situation for Jorgensen, but he does clearly have some talent. I think he's comfortable playing out from the back, but I know most players are. But short passes, he can do that. I feel like his long range passes, I think the stats show that he has like 62.5% for that. But you know what, ultimately, when I look at Jorgensen, we're not signing him to be our number one. We're signing him to compete alongside Robert Sanchez. But most importantly, I think we're signing a goalkeeper that we can mold. Because if he can work under Maresca, because listen, one thing I'll give credit to Man City for is the fact that they produce so many top class ball playing sweeper goalkeepers. And you're looking at guys like Trafford, like Muric, like a few of them coming out from their academy. And I feel like with Maresca's expertise, the goalkeeping coaches at this football club, over the next year or two, they could work alongside a Jorgensen and hopefully take his game to a higher level. But then again, on paper, it makes sense. But in reality, if he lacks confidence mentally and makes mistakes, we could easily decide to sell him the following season and go in for someone else, because we've shown that when it comes to development, it seems to be more of like a buzzword compared to an action that we religiously believe in, if you know what I mean. But to give my closing thoughts on this news, when I look at Jorgensen, one thing that I can't forget is that last season, Villarreal statistically allowed the most shots on target compared to any other La Liga club. And it's nice that Jorgensen can handle himself in those areas, but ultimately, when you come to a club like us, when you move up another level, you won't be faced with those same amount of shots on goal. You'll be judged by how you react when you're doing nothing. Your concentration must be key. There's different skills that you must start enforce in your game. Top class keepers are judged by their excellence in times where it's needed. And this is where having that mental strength is so key. And this is why I would have been down to sign a Diogo Costa, because this is a world-class keeper that would have transformed us, but it is what it is. Let's see how Jorgensen does alongside Sanchez. But if anything, I think this is all on Robert Sanchez now to assert himself and raise his game, because he must stake his spot as our number one. So that's the news out of the way. Share your thoughts and opinions. And to move on, obviously, I couldn't do this video without having a discussion about Enzo Maresca's first press conference as our new manager. Now, originally I had planned to wait until I think 1:30 to watch this for myself, but it got delayed until I think 2:45 or something ridiculous like that, 2:15. And I need my beauty sleep, yeah? But regardless, let's tackle some of the main talking points from the press conference, with the first notable one being Maresca's comments on the Enzo Fernandez situation. And to be honest, I was pleased with that. As Maresca says, I don't think there will be problems with Enzo Fernandez when he returns. There were no bad intentions. I spoke with Enzo. It's all clear now. It's all clarified by the player and the club. So that's it. Enzo has apologized. There's no problems at all. And it's good that this has now been resolved. I think it's been a massive learning experience for Enzo Fernandez. And obviously Maresca won't be making these comments without talking to the squad first, talking to the club, talking to Enzo Fernandez, and actually really gauging the feelings of everyone around that controversy. And it does seem like this is something that can move on, because as I've said in previous videos, the players will know that Enzo is more than the stupid comments that he promoted. And as I've said, I get why Enzo did that. I don't think the intentions were to be racist at all. Instead, it's one of those things where it's like you're parading your defeated enemies' heads on a spike and Obviously, the rivalry between France and Argentina has been pretty strong over the recent years, right? So I understand that, but hopefully the squad can move on now, and it's good to know that preparations can be even more focused. And we now wait for Enzo to return back from his holiday. We learned from Enzo Maresca that he sees Christo and Nkunku as someone that can play anywhere. And I'm going to say this very quickly. Watch yesterday's 5 key targets Maresca must meet this preseason, because Nkunku was a big key target on my mind. And it does seem like we should see some experimentation with how he's used. Now, some rumors that's coming out from the open training session show that Nkunku was playing more as the offensive 8 role. And in my head, as I've been saying, that is my dream position for Nkunku, because he's closer to goal, and that's a position he's excelled in for many, many years at Leipzig. So that's good to hear. Maresca likes the fact that he can play as a 9, a winger, and an attacking midfield player, and he wants to develop him in several positions. So it'll be a very big season for Christo. Let's hope that he doesn't suffer any injuries next season. For the final 2 big comments, we discussed Reece James because we're getting some answers now on the inverted fullback situation, and Maresca has said that he is looking at different solutions, but currently we are seeing Reece James and Gusto now being tested playing this inverted midfield role, as they can both play that. And Enzo revealed that he was watching games of Reece James's loan spell at Wigan, where he played half a season as their midfield player. Reece said in the press conference that he is open to playing in that role again. It'll be really interesting to see what he does there. So that's one thing to watch out for this preseason. And for the final comments on Trevoh Chalobah, Maresca confirms that it's always sad to leave a player out, but I had to take my decision. We have Wes, the sassy Tosin. We have Acheampong, who's doing fantastic at the moment. And that's a pretty interesting quote. I think it's great news that Acheampong is being promoted. I think this kid's a big talent. I think physically he's already there. Can play across positions. He is someone that can be molded and could be more accepting of a 5th, 6th place role in the team, right? But at the same time, I think it's also a cap for Maresca, because as we all know, it's the directors who have made the decision to omit Trevoh Chalobah. Remember, Maresca's been hired as our head coach. He won't make those executive decisions. He's expressed his willingness to work alongside the board, and that's another reason as to why he was hired outside of his footballing principles. So yeah, Trevoh Chalobah, of course, let's see what happens with this situation. And to be fair, probably segues in nicely to the final part of the video today. But anyway, my friends, what did you guys think about Maresca's press conference? Did you like his energy? Did you like what he had to say? Are you excited? Let us know below. And naturally, we end things discussing the latest surrounding Trevoh Chalobah, because as confirmed by Romano, the club are hoping to receive between 30 to 35 million pounds for the player's sale. Now, at the moment, 3 clubs in England who have European positions have made initial contact for the player. I'm guessing West Ham, Villa. Could United be an option? Could Arsenal be an option? Is there a surprise here? We'll find out. But outside of Prem clubs, clubs in Italy, clubs in Germany are also expressing interest. Now, it's been revealed that Chalobah was surprised to be omitted from the squad. He is upset at being left out. That's natural. He hasn't taken it easily, but he won't just leave the club just like that. And ultimately, it made sense, because he only signed that contract extension 2 years ago. And even before he signed the extension, his deal was actually expiring in 2026. So at the time, giving him that long-term contract was a sign of good faith around, valuing the player and also valuing the products coming out from the academy, right? But obviously, fast forward 2 years, things have changed. And when you have, the new directors now and your Stewarts, Winstonleys and Shields, is there any surprise that a lot of them have signed players that they were familiar with at their prior clubs? You're looking at Disasi and Badia at Monaco. You're looking at Shields bringing in Tosin as well. You've seen Winsley do the same things with other players in different positions. And, ultimately it does feel like whatever came at our club does come at the expense of the vision that our new ownership and directors have for the football club. So listen, I feel Chalobah's pain, especially when you're not leaving for football reasons. And he himself won't go so easily unless he has the right opportunities coming his way, because it's not the first time he's been forced out. Many players have been under the same situation. Yet when you force out common grads like this, normally against adversity, they step up, they rise up, they show what they can do. And Chalobah has been the guy who was supposed to leave us every single window recently. yet he finds himself in favour of most managers. We saw that with Pochettino last season, where once Chalobah was introduced to the team, we could finally use a high line, and we only lost one game in 13 appearances, and that was a season where Chalobah's prominence, his development was really showing. He had a more leadership role. He was telling teammates what to do. He was there for them. And obviously, a lot of teammates are upset by that. We've seen even common grads liking posts on social media expressing their, disdain for the news around his exit. And when you're losing out on figures like this in the club, I think that can leave a bit of a hole in the squad. We'll see how that gets filled. But I think ultimately, the reason why this news just annoys me always comes down to this. Now, I always thought when you have an academy like ours, yes, you'll find those first team talents, but a lot of times you're producing great squad players who are good enough for the team, right? And we can't cap and say that your Guys, your Livramentos, your Lewis Halls, your Rubens, your Tomoris, your Abrahams, so many of these guys, let's not act like they aren't good enough to even be squad players for us. That's a lie, because a lot of the new signings we've made haven't even eclipsed what these guys were showing prior, right? And for myself, when you can produce an academy that can produce talents like this, that can produce those ready-made players, that saves you a crap ton of money. So it annoys me that we'd move on players who already have the ties to the club, came from one of the best academies in the world, and are great players in their own right, to then move them on to sign squad players who aren't as good for more money. I think this is where I get a bit annoyed, because as I've said, in my opinion, there was a future where the Cobham grads, the top youth stars, could have all coexisted together. That was not impossible. We could have saved more money on that. And I think the reason why I always feel a little bit of a personal annoyance is because ultimately, if this is successful or not, it doesn't matter, because the costs for the fans will rise. This summer, we're seeing that pre-season costs have gone up a lot more. And over the next 1 to 5 years, they will go up even more after that, because that is something that Clear Lake have already done with the LA Dodgers. So I don't know, maybe I'm just a nerd, but I just like a bit of responsible spending, especially when ultimately we have to foot the cost one way or the other. So my friends, that's the latest news stories today. Share your thoughts and opinions, and later on I have a big preview coming out for the game against Wrexham in like an hour or two, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, so my guys, on that note, I'm Nini FC, this is BlueLionsTV. See you all soon. Cool.